Super Mario 3D All-Stars is about to come out, so I thought this would be a perfect time to take a look back at one of my favorite games of all time, Super Mario 64. One thing about the game that was always super memorable was how many stages centered around one big structure which housed a boss. This isn't every stage and not all bosses are presented in this way, but a lot of these memorable boss fights are closely entwined with the stages they reside in, and a lot of them are spoken in the same breath when talking about the stages in Mario 64. Today, let's take a look back at all the major bosses of Super Mario 64 and see what their fights and missions had to offer.
By the way guys, real quick, if you like the video, consider subscribing. Like half the views on every video come from non-subscribers, so it would really help the channel out a ton, and it's also one of the best ways to keep up if you want to see more. With that out of the way, on to the video. Alright, first up we got the big boy. Big Bob-omb is not only the first boss you'll encounter in the game, but he's also the first star mission of the entire game. Though not the first star you'll encounter, and I don't think I've ever once completed Mario 64's first mission first. Kinda hard to climb the top of the mountain when that chain chomp star is staring you right in the face. Big Bob-omb sits atop the mountain that serves as the main centerpiece for Bob-omb Battlefield. Once you scale it and confront him, he immediately tells you how to beat him. Though, upon first playing the game, my 8-year-old brain didn't realize and I kept trying to throw him off the side of the cliff only to have him jump back onto the arena. The object is to run up behind him, grab him, and toss him onto the ground a total of 3 times. This isn't difficult, but it is, however, pretty annoying as he's an early introduction into one of Mario 64's most prevalent boss types, the haha you can't get me boss. He walks around very slowly but turns around pretty quickly, making it difficult to grab him. If you miss him and he grabs you, he can throw you off the stage, which then resets his health, and you'll have to confront him again. All in all, he's pretty easy, and there really isn't much to his fight, but I think it's a good way to ease into the game. He's an alright boss. The second boss you'll meet is Womp King, who's waiting for you at the top of Womp's fortress. There's a few different ways to climb to the top, and the game does want you to do a bunch of stuff to get there, but there's an easy shortcut via a warp point followed by a flagpole that can easily skip most, if not all, the platforming challenges you're supposed to face leading up to the boss. This is how I've always done it, and I've never seen a reason not to. Now, Womp King is a boss I've always liked. He takes a little more brain power and is less irritating than Big Bob-omb. Instead of running around in circles hoping for an opening, Womp can only be damaged once he's face down with a ground pound to his back. The way you're supposed to do this is by dodging his body slam attack, either by running under or next to him, and then quickly following it up with a ground pound. But if you've ever seen a speed run of Mario 64, you'll know that this actually isn't necessary, and a well-timed ground pound during his attack will not only make you phase through him, completely avoiding his attack, but it also works way faster since the timing is perfectly lined up for the hit to land as soon as he's face down. I used to always go under him, but once I learned this strategy, it kinda took a lot of the fun away from the boss fight. Still a pretty neat trick to pull off though. Even with that in mind, Womp King is still one of my favorite bosses, and quite frankly, so is his stage. The first Bowser fight is one that I'll never forget, and that's because me and my cousins beat him the night we got Mario 64 and thought we had finished the game in a matter of hours. This was the world's first look at Bowser in the 3rd dimension, though his reveal ended up not really looking like the concept or promo art, his face looking much less imposing and far more resembling that of a week-old puppy. Still though, this was the first showdown with Bowser in 3D, and that alone is something iconic. So after trekking your way through one of the game's few linear course clear stages, you square up against Bowser on a giant arena that's perimeter houses these spiked bombs. Like I mentioned before, this is one of the game's annoying boss types where you need to grab them from behind, but they relentlessly try to face you. The idea is to grab Bowser by the tail, swing him around, and then throw him into one of the bombs. Just one hit takes this first incarnation of Bowser out, though it is still sketchy and kind of difficult to line your throws up, but I'll say right now that this Bowser fight is the most tame in that regard. His only means of defense for this first fight is a really short-range fire breath attack, so taking him out this time is easy. All in all, a pretty good first Bowser fight, and despite him not looking intimidating in the slightest, the music helps to make the fight seem a little more serious. The game that came before this one, Super Mario World, had a bunch of ghost houses, so it's no surprise they had to put at least one in Mario 64. What they didn't need to do was give you one ghost house stage and then make half the star missions be fighting the exact same boss in different locations. Due to the fact that for some reason you need to fight Big Boo 3 times, I'm gonna pick one of them, and I'll go with not my favorite mission, but the most interesting in my opinion. The first one, called Go on a Ghost Hunt. In this stage's first star mission, the entire second floor of the ghost house is inaccessible, or at least it's meant to be. And the only way to gain access to the second floor is by defeating the boss and getting the first star, but the only way to make the boss spawn is by scouring the mansion and defeating all the small boos scattered throughout the stage.
All the small boos. Comedy.
Once you've found and defeated all of them, Big Boo will spawn in the main lobby of the mansion. Like the smaller Boos, he can't be attacked from the front, as he turns translucent and invincible when being looked at head-on. So, once again, we have another boss that needs to be attacked from behind, only this time you can just kick him right in the ass. instead of making things more complicated. I have to say I do like this marginally better than having to run around in circles just for the chance to actually get a hit in, so I guess I'll give him a few extra points for that. It's just a little bit frustrating, but I think it's a pretty good boss fight with a cool concept for a mission leading up to it. Another boss that you end up encountering more than once is the Big Bully in Lethal Lava Land, though he's a bit less egregious since you only have to fight him twice. Well, not have to, but you get what I mean. His second fight is a bit less impactful though, so I'm gonna go with the first fight, a star mission called Boil the Bully. Now the stage is filled with these little bob-omb looking enemies called bullies. They can't damage you and you can't damage them, and the only way to defeat them is by hitting them into the lava, and unfortunately they can do the same to you. At an arena towards the back of Lethal Lava Land stands the Big Bully, a giant version of these enemies. As you'd expect, he takes way more effort to move. His fight is pretty easy though, and with some well-timed jump kicks you can send him to a molten grave. Once he's defeated, his star will spawn on a platform behind the arena. The game does try to screw you over one last time though by making the steps that lead to the platform collapse and giving no warning or indication that they do, so for first-time players, unknowingly hesitating on the steps might result in you needing to redo the entire fight. This was always one of my favorite boss fights in the game when I was younger, not really sure why. Maybe it's because it's so much different than the other bosses since he's just kinda right out in the open, but I guess that goes for the entire stage since it's so condensed and everything is just right there. That's probably why this stage is like my favorite one. As cliche of a concept as this boss fight is, Iroc is probably one of the most interesting fights in the game. You encounter him during the star mission Stand Tall on the Four Pillars, in which you need to make it to the top of 4 giant pillars which surround the big pyramid in Shifting Sandland. There's a few different ways to do this, but by far the quickest way is just by grabbing the wing cap and flying to each one. Once you make it to the 4th, the top of the pyramid will open up and let you inside. Once inside, you'll find Iroc, 2 giant hands made out of stone with an eyeball in the palm of each. Iroc. Clever. I'll let you guys guess what the strategy is behind this boss. He tries to attack you by squishing you or by shoving you off of the stage, but it doesn't really take much to take him out. After attacking the eyes on either hand enough times, one of them will be defeated and the other hand will get really aggressive with trying to push you away. If you keep calm though, you can make quick work of the other one and are rewarded with a star. This is probably one of the better bosses in the game, and I think it's made even more interesting by the fact that it's tucked away behind an admittedly pretty weird objective. Bowser in the Fire Sea is the Bowser fight that I think everyone saw before actually playing the game. I remember this being the fight that was featured in most promotional footage for the game upon its release, and I mean it makes sense. This is the big fight where Bowser jumps up and slams down on the ground, shifting the entire stage. There's no arguing that this looked impressive back then, and it's definitely a good example if you want to show off Mario 64's more epic moments. So this fight is much like the first, only this time not only can Bowser mess with the stage and send you sliding off of it, but now he also, for whatever reason, has the power of teleportation. He can also charge at you if you're too far away from him, but I unfortunately didn't get footage of that. Just trust me when I say it looks silly. Once again, you only need to get one hit on him, so once you send him flying into a bomb, that's all she wrote. It's honestly not much different from the first fight, but I will give it extra points just for the fact that it does admittedly look way more striking and epic than the first fight. Okay, there really isn't much I can say about the Chili Bully in Snowman's Land. The boss is a bit weird since the original Big Bully was a giant version of the smaller enemies that populated Lethal Lava Land, and in the Chili Bully's case, he's the only one. In any case, this is just an ice version of the Big Bully fight from earlier. The main difference being that the arena is now made of ice, so it's slippery, adding some more challenge to the fight. The ice below the stage functions the same way as the lava does, but there's a lot less of it, so if you fall off the stage, you're more likely to actually survive. Honestly, I think I like the Chili Bully fight a little more than the lava one, but I might just be basing that off of aesthetics alone. Still though, pretty cool fight, and it's a fun variation, I think. Accessing Wiggler's Arena in Tiny Huge Island requires the player to ground pound the pool of water at the top of the stage, draining all of it inside Wiggler's house, and that's entirely the reason he's upset and why you have to fight him. Kinda messed up. Once draining the water and entering the hole via the huge side of Tiny Huge Island, you come face to face with a rightfully pissed off Wiggler who starts stomping around the stage. The object is to jump on his head 3 times, and each time you attack him, he gets increasingly faster and more aggressive. Now, apparently he's gone mad with power and is corrupted by the power star he's holding, and defeating him shrinks him back down to size and also calms him down. The game makes you think this is a happy ending because Wiggler is no longer angry, Mario gets a power star, and Wiggler then invites Mario to come back and visit anytime. Unfortunately, this is immediately followed up by the now tiny Wiggler slipping through the holes of the platform you're standing on, falling to his death. Good night, sweet prince. The third Bowser fight has to be simultaneously the most epic and most infuriating boss fight in the game. It's my favorite fight, and I also hate it with a passion. It's got so much going for it, and in terms of tone, they completely nailed it. The lighting is totally different, and the entire color palette changes the mood into something you can tell is much more dire and also creepy. And it's further supported by eerie music that would honestly fit just as well as if you were facing off against Dracula. Everything is bigger, more imposing, and more striking in this boss fight, and it's even much longer as Bowser now takes 3 hits to defeat. They really went all out with this one, trying to add some spectacle, to the point where once you've attacked Bowser twice, he'll stomp around and make half the arena fall apart, taking the shape of a power star. Missing a bomb and throwing Bowser off the stage will cause him to jump back onto the stage and gradually take each chunk out, but they made sure to include a phase where he finishes the stage off so that even the best players don't miss it. Not only is this fight harder because he takes more hits, but he now has a shockwave attack that lines the floor when he lands on it, as well as having upgraded fire breath. Difficulty is also added by way of having less bombs you can throw him at once you've got 2 hits in, and once the stage falls apart, you have to make a much further and more precise throw and can no longer stand right in front of the bombs to make aiming easier. Not to mention, it's very easy to fall off the stage. Once you get that final 3rd hit in, you're finally rewarded by a nice 4th wall break, an end cutscene, and one of the best ending credit songs in the Super Mario series. Thank you so much for playing my game. And that's all the bosses in Super Mario 64, skipping over refights anyway. I can't say Mario 64 has the most interesting boss fights in the series, nor are they really very challenging, and a few of them are pretty rough around the edges, but I mean, come on, this was the first 3D Mario game, and probably the first time anyone had experienced a 3D video game boss fight. While these fights aren't the most involved or strategic, many of them remain iconic and unforgettable, and I think that says a lot about the effort and care that went into the creation of Super Mario 64. Hey, thanks for watching the video. If you liked it and want to see more, there's a couple other videos right there you can check out. And if you want to see everything I upload, subscribe and then tap the bell icon. And if you want to help support the channel, I also have a Patreon right there too.